A friend of mine used to live in Hartford, Connecticut. And when he lived there, one of his favorite things to do was travel into New York City. Now, after one or two trips, he figured out that it was far too expensive and just downright difficult to drive into New York City when he wanted to visit. He figured out he could take the train. And once he figured this out, he just fell in love with it. He loved riding the train into New York City. Every weekend that was free for him, from his seminary classes, he would do this. Because out the window, on one side of the train, you could see the rolling hills of Connecticut, the countryside, rolling in green, covered in trees that had been painted, especially in the fall months, with purples and golds, orange and red. Just beautiful. Out the other window of the train, as you passed along the countryside, you could see the waters of Long Island Sound stretched out before you. It was picture perfect. Now, when you entered into the city, the train would elevate. See, real estate in New York City is extremely expensive, so they wanted to use the land for something they could make money on. And they put the train on elevated tracks going into the city. So as you came into the city, you rise above the ground level, and you can see all the world before you, spread out, the buildings, the scenery flashing by. And the very last stop on the trip is Grand Central Station. That's where the trains terminate. But the stop before it is 125th Street in Harlem. And as the train pulls to a stop, when you look out the windows, the world just explodes before your eyes. For out of the apartment buildings, women are hanging from the windows, hanging out laundry and chatting with one another, shouting down at their children on the street who are playing together. There are men gathered together on stoops, talking about politics and trying to cure the ills of the world, just like Erwin and his friends do over at the Quick Check on a regular basis. I don't know that they get any further along than Erwin and his friends do, but they're trying. And the kids, they play together on the sidewalks, and the cars are rushing down the roads, and people are going everywhere, to someplace, from someplace, just bustling with activity, thousands and thousands of them. The whole world is right there, outside the window. As you sit and you wait for some to board and some to leave, and then the announcer comes up and says, see, the speakers are bad. But what he's actually saying is, 125th Street at Harlem, next stop, Grand Central Station. That's what he's saying. But it comes out, because they never bothered to replace the speakers. And then the doors close. And the train moves on. And as it whisks by, you can still see apartment buildings and people and things happening, and all of a sudden, darkness. See, Grand Central Station is underground. So the train enters a tunnel to get there. So you go from all the world to absolute, well, not quite absolute darkness. Because the inside of the train is still illuminated by the lights inside the passenger cars. And if you're staring out the window, you've gone from seeing the world to seeing yourself, staring back at you like a mirror. Our scriptures today build on one another. In the gospel lesson, Jesus calls the first disciples. He asks them to come with him, to leave everything they know behind. And he will teach them a greater skill than fishing for food and profit. Now, he will teach them to fish for people. Those men who went with him were given a charge, a mission to change the world with and for Jesus. To share the joy that he gave to them with everyone they met. And they did change the world, didn't they? Churches sprang up across the continents, and that small, dedicated group of followers, it became larger day after day, year after year, more and more Christians. And when they gathered together in the places of worship, to sing praises to God, to study the Scriptures, they gathered in love. to be Christians and to live out that call that Jesus had placed before them and the disciples had shown them, they had to love one another. They had to build each other up and support one another. They had to care for the sick and the needy. They had to offer a helping hand to all who cried out in pain, just as Jesus had done and just as Jesus had taught them to do. They were united together, a fellowship in love with their Master and in love with one another. He taught them to love their neighbors as themselves. And they loved God so much that they were able to do that very thing with everyone they met. They loved that neighbor as themselves. And then along comes Paul with our passage from the first letter to the Corinthians this morning, several years later, offering counsel to the church at Corinth because the church at Corinth was in chaos. Its members were claiming loyalty, as you heard, to one preacher or another, to one way of doing things or another. They were sick. They were fighting amongst themselves. They were not united as brothers and sisters under the lordship of Christ. They were claiming allegiance to a particular person or a particular thing. And they forgot. And Paul reminded them that they had to be united. They had to stand as one body in Christ. And in order to do the work that Christ had called them to do. They had not been called by someone or something other than Jesus Christ. They had been marked through their baptism, just like we have, and their acceptance into Christ's holy church to be the children of God, each and every one of them, brothers and sisters alike. They were the church, not the building or the place where they gathered, but them, set apart from this world to change this world for God. They were called to serve Jesus, to love Him by loving one another. The words of these passages are significant today. They speak to us right here where we are, right now, because we have been marked. Just like the church of Corinth, just like the first disciples that were named off for you in the gospel lesson, Simon, Peter, Andrew, James, and John, we have been brought together in order that we will do Jesus' work still. That we will cast our nets wide and we will fish for people. That we will help to answer the call to grow God's kingdom here on earth, not waiting for a better day, but now. We cannot do that if the members of Christ's kingdom are divided one against another. We are a collection of individuals. We have our own unique life experiences and different opinions about things, and that's for sure, and that's okay. Praise God that we're given freedom. But we are bound together in our service to Christ and to His church.